Welcome to your weekday cup of the word. Today we're going to do something just a little bit different. We are going to do an introduction to the Song of Solomon. So we're not actually going to do a chapter reading in this particular day. And here's the reason why. Song of Solomon is considered by many to be the most difficult to interpret book in the entire Bible. So it seemed worth it to take a moment before we head into the poetry of this wisdom book, to pause and kind of understand how it all fits together. Now there's three basic ways that people will interpret this book, and we'll look at all three and then tell you which one we think is the right one. The first is allegorical. That is, that it's a romantic psalm, 8 chapters about romance that don't deal with real romance between a man and a woman, but are just simply figurative ways of talking about God's love for the church and the love of the Messiah for his people. The problem with that allegorical view is that the Psalm uses real names of real people and real situations, and it points towards more literal language than that. The allegorical doesn't really hold up once you start using the names of real people in the scenario. The second type is that it is disconnected love psalms. That is, each of the 8 chapters aren't continuous, that they each are an unrelated love psalm that just talks about love and romantic love in a generic sort of way. The problem is as you read through the 8 chapters, which feel free to certainly do today, to just do a quick perusal of all 8 together, a skim of it per se, you see that they are not disconnected at all. There's definitely a theme going on there. Even if you don't know what it is, there's definitely some continuity to it. So that one doesn't hold up very well either, which means we're left with the literal view. That is, this is a psalm that's dealing with literal romance between a man and a woman. The problem with that is also the most difficult view to take as far as interpretation, which means we've now got to ask a second question. In the literal view of the Song of Solomon, there's 2 philosophies. One is that this particular song is about the romantic love between Solomon, king of Israel, and one of his many wives. The other view is that Solomon is trying to add a woman, a poor Shulamite woman, who was beautiful, to his harem of wives because he had many. And that eventually she will turn him down because she loves a poor shepherd. And so she'll turn down the king over a godly man. Now here's the thing. The view that it is Solomon is kind of hard to swallow. There are definitely people who take this interpretation, but here's why we believe that this is really not a psalm about Solomon and his romantic love, but it's really a story of a woman who loved a poor shepherd and gave up the riches of the king of Israel to be with him. There's several different pieces of evidence that point towards that. One is the reoccurring chorus of this psalm is "Do not awaken love until it's time," which makes a whole lot of sense if she's being wooed by Solomon, who's saying, just come and have my riches and we'll make it easy for you, and you can just be one of my wives and you'll have a great life and I'll give you all this money and luxury. And she's instead saying, no, I'll wait for the right man who's a good man instead of the easy route, which is the life of luxury with Solomon. The other problem with the Solomon view is Solomon is not exactly a great standard for biblical love. Here's a guy who got in trouble for having too many wives. So one of the things that we know most about Solomon is he was a guy who had too many wives, who had the wrong attitude towards marriage. And so if the psalm is about Solomon and a woman, it's kind of weird to take this guy who everybody agrees was not good in the marriage realm and set him up as the hero in this. And so as you look at it, it seems to point much more towards the idea of Solomon being the guy who wrote the psalm about a woman who did the unthinkable. She turned him down. How many women over the history of Solomon's life said no to him? And he writes this psalm about this woman that turned him down because she was waiting to live a life, a poor life, with a godly man in her home country. So this, the Song of Solomon, as we go through it, that's the real pattern. We're going to look at three different characters. We're going to look at Solomon, who is attempting to woo this woman with all of the trappings of wealth and kingship and luxury. We're going to look at the Shulamite, who is the woman, and her upbringing and her life. It seems to point that she had only brothers. She was a poor woman. Her mother was a widow. And then the third person is the shepherd boy that is crying out to her saying, I love you. And I can't give you what Solomon would offer, but I give you my whole heart, and I will be good to you my whole life. And that, well, that's a love story, folks. That's what Song of Solomon provides. And that's the intro. Starting tomorrow, we'll take a look at it chapter by chapter. That's your Daily Cup, and we'll see you then.